Joining me now at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square is Ohio Governor John Kasich. Governor, it's great to have you back here. Welcome.
Good to be with you.
Let's start off with the breaking news of the day, President Trump's decision to replace Secretary of State Rex Tillerson with Mike Pompeo. What was your reaction?
More change, more upheaval. You really want to have, in whether it's a business or whether it's in government or whether it's in sports, you kind of want to have a stable team. And we're not seeing a lot of that out of the White House, but it's the president's choice. He's got to have who he's comfortable with, and I wish him all the best.
And this decision comes as President Trump is set to implement tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Do you see a need for such tariffs?
Well, there's usually a process you go through where you say you go to the FTC, you go to into the Commerce Department. You have a process. That process appears not to have been completed, and the tariffs are being put into play on the issue of national security, which those in charge of national security said they don't think it's a national security issue. So it appears to me just to be a tariff, and I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And so therefore, we are, in a way, before everything finally gets decided, and you tell me who's going to be exempted, who's not, it creates more uncertainty, more dysfunction, and moves us away from perhaps some of our, from the allies that we want to be in agreement with. Plus, it'll result in higher prices for consumers and may cause job loss. So I don't think this is a good approach. I didn't like the fact that we withdrew from the Pacific Trade Agreement. I think trade is not just economic, but it's geopolitical at the same time, particularly when we think about places like Asia and the Pacific. One other thing I will say about trade, however, is that there are big bureaucracies that take a long time to decide whether there's a trade dispute. So you and I own a company, and we think a foreign country is taking advantage of us. By the time we get through the process, they say, oh yeah, you're right, our company could be shut down. So we need an expedited process to deal with this very tough issue of trade. And finally, if you don't have these organizations that can move quickly, thoroughly but quickly, it creates a real problem. And you begin to lose the credibility of what trade's all about. The same way that the Brits looked at Brussels and saw a very top-heavy organization, and they ended up voting for Brexit. So you've got to make sure that these organizations can function effectively and thoroughly. Sorry to go on so long, but it's not simple.
Totally. It's a complex issue. And you mentioned national security concerns. President Trump also blocking Broadcom's desire to buy Qualcomm, citing national security concerns. So clearly there's a pattern here. What do you think the president is trying to do?
Well, I'm not going to try to put myself in his shoes. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with the Qualcomm issue, although I know that was going to be a Chinese acquisition, and Qualcomm is a cutting-edge company. I don't know enough about that, but as it relates to the decision on steel and aluminum, I don't think it was a good decision.
Although you have plenty of steel production in your state, I mean, what are your constituents telling you about the tariffs?
Well, people aren't saying a lot about it, but look, I have to be a leader, and I have to take into account what people want. And then I've got to decide a public policy, not based on who yells the loudest, but one I think is going to be best for the folks in my state or people in the country. So I don't think this makes a lot of sense.
Soon after we got the tariff announcements, news came that President Trump has agreed to meet with North Korea leader Kim Jong-un. Do you think the timing was interesting there in the sense that perhaps these tariffs, which hurt China, put pressure on China to encourage North Korea to come to the table?
No, I don't think so. I think it just kind of happened that way. I don't think so. No. Look, we've been putting pressure on the Koreans by being in a position of creating these sanctions. I actually think we could have done more on sanctions that would have pressured the Chinese government to put more pressure on North Korea. But look, it's better that we're going to have talks than no talks rather than tanks, so to speak. But we've got to see how this all plays out, because it poses some risks, as your foreign policy experts will tell you.
So President Trump is right to meet with Kim Jong-un, in your view?
Well, look, I'm not president, okay? I ran, but I didn't win. If I'd won, we wouldn't be standing here now, right? But my sense is that it's always important to try to test what the other side wants. So if I even will have meetings or requests for meetings in my office, and I want to make sure that when I have a meeting, it's going to produce something that is going to be worthwhile. I do believe there could have been better preparation for this, but that's the president. He has the right to do what he wants to do to move forward. I would have handled it differently.
Are you going to challenge President Trump in 2020 during the election?
For golf?
For president.
I have no idea what I'm going to do. I finished my term, going to have a strong run through the tape, finish to my term. And, you know, everybody wants to think, well, he's posturing, or I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. And you know what? You tell me what's going to happen tomorrow in the world of politics.
Maybe another resignation
Who
from
knows?
the administration.
Who knows? So I can't tell you what I'm going to do. I don't know.
Although you have been very vocal in recent weeks on guns, of course, with the tragic shooting in Florida last month. What would you tell President Trump right now when it comes to gun control?
Well, look, I think he actually has some good proposals. They're now moving to ban bump stocks, which turns a semi-automatic into a fully automatic. I hope we're going to duplicate that in our state. He has a proposal that says that if somebody is unstable and can pose harm both to themselves or to other people, that through a due process, a court, you'll be able to take those guns away. I consider that to be good. And I also consider it important to fix this reporting system so when somebody goes to buy a gun, that we're going to have all the information in front of the seller. I think all that is very positive. If we can move that down the line, we'll make progress. Now, is there more that I would like to do? There's absolutely more I'd like to do, but you've got to get the votes to do it. And if we can get this progress made, I think it'll be positive. And I commend Florida. Florida has moved to take some important steps. I think they're good.
Are we at a tipping point in your view, in the sense that we'll...
Tipping, but I don't know that tipped over. You know, tipping, yes, you're going to see something going to occur here, I think, around the country that wouldn't have occurred a couple months ago. But what are you going to do about all these issues that surround the semi-automatic, you know, military-style weapons? What are we going to do about casual sales at gun shows? I think we're tipping, but probably not tipped over yet.
Because people thought there'd be legislation after Sandy Hook and nothing happened.
Well, but I just mentioned some things that are very significant. You fix the NICS system, you take guns out of people who are unstable, you make sure that you have good reporting. Those are very good steps, but it shouldn't be the end of it.
Governor John Kasich,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.